You win divisions with stars, no question. But you win championships with the guys nobody talks about. Today, let's talk about those guys. Today on Locked On A's.
You are Locked On A's, your daily podcast on the Athletics. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Happy Saturday. Good morning to you. And welcome to Locked On A's, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Now, the #1 sports podcast network in the land. I am your host, Booney, lifelong A's fan who has spent decades living every collapse, every rebuild, and every championship this franchise has put us through. I watch the games, I track the prospects, and I follow the business side closer than most people follow their own team. Every day, I promise you, you will get real roster breakdowns, long-term context, and unfiltered takes from someone who actually understands this organization. Why? Because I've grown up with them. Welcome to Locked On A's, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team, your A's, every single day. And today's episode is brought to you in part by FanDuel. The winter games are on, and there's no better way to follow them with a bet on FanDuel. FanDuel, play your game. Today on Locked On A's, we have a lot to get into as the A's were quite busy yesterday. The A's DFA'd Max Schuemann. And I'll be honest, I have mixed feelings. Always rooting for the grinder in Max Schuemann, who earned his shot versus the cold roster math of timing, options, and opportunity windows. And asking the hard questions of whether Schuemann truly got a fair runway while explaining the uncomfortable truth that sometimes it's not about whether you can play, it's about whether the roster's timeline lines up with yours. And I'll talk about that a little bit later. The reason the A's DFA'd Max Schuemann was so they can make room for Andy Ibáñez. Is a good, solid piece, a good, solid addition for the A's. I'll break down his multi-position defensive value and why teams that want to survive 162 games need players who keep the roster from cracking when injuries and slumps hit. We'll talk about Ibáñez, his fit, and if he is a fit for the opening day 26-man roster. And also, the A's still need to make a corresponding move to make room for the next individual I'm going to talk about, which is Scott Barlow. Scott Barlow is a bullpen stabilizer. And I brought in Jeff Carr, host of Locked On Reds, in a pre-recorded conversation I did maybe about half an hour ago, guys, an hour ago, to give real on-the-ground insight into what Barlow actually is, his swing and miss stuff, late inning experience, fearless usage, and the one swing factor being command. Jeff Carr is going to frame why veteran relievers matter to a young bullpen like the A's, trying to flip close losses into wins. How are you guys doing, man? BBQ Slayer, we got the guy. Kurtz hit the 500-foot home run off. We did. Scott Barlow's a little bit more than that, and I'm going to get to that. Rob, I like the new additions. Should help the team. I'm real high on Barlow. And guys, here is a pre-recorded conversation I had with Jeff Carr, like I said, about half an hour ago, on his thoughts on the A's pickup of Scott Barlow. And at the end of the conversation, I asked Jeff Carr to give the A's a letter grade on the conversation. I asked Jeff Carr to give a letter grade on the pickup the A's made. I'll see you guys in about 10 minutes. Jeff, Scotty Barlow, 33-year-old veteran right-hander, was Kansas City's former closer, had an ERA in the 2s. Seems like control was his big problem last year. He induced a lot of weak contact, but again, I still keep looking at that ERA over 4, and as a baseball fan, I can't ignore that no matter how much I try. Late inning guy, high leverage guy for the Reds. What's your take on Scotty Barlow? Evaluate the pickup for the A's.
I actually like the move, and he was a guy that if the Reds were to bring back, I would have been like, yeah, that's cool. He had a team option for 2026. at, I want to say it was like $7 million. It was clear that was too much. Like, he was a fine relief pitcher, and where he will slot in for the A's, or where he should slot in for the A's, is the middle of the game fireman. Bring him in and you put out the fire, because yeah, you're a little bit worried about the 4.21 ERA, but let me ease that a little bit, because he had another amazing stat that buoys that when it comes to inherited runners. He inherited more runners than any Reds relief pitcher last year, 39 inherited runners, and he only allowed 9 of them to score. He's got something in them veins that whenever there's somebody on base, and even if they're in scoring position, maybe even a little bit better, he's going to get it. He's going to get it done. He's going to get you now.
Let me ask you a question. The A's really right now don't have a closer. Last year, after they dealt Mason Miller, believe it or not, they were the best bullpen in all of baseball, and they did that by bullpen by committee. So they do not have a defined closer right now. Do you think Barlow can fit into that role? 33 years old, veteran guy, or will he just be part of it?
I don't know that I would pick him as my first option, but I would be comfortable with him being somewhere in that rotation. If it's a closer by committee, maybe he is option B, option C. I think option C would probably be the best role for him. He pitched what felt like, and the Reds had a guy that pitched every other day, and Tony Santillan, he had 80 appearances.
Yes.
Scott Barlow had 75 appearances. Like, he almost pitched every other day last year. Now, not all of those were 1-inning appearances, but he was coming in like the 6th inning, 7th inning. If the starter had left some folks on base and Terry Francona just wasn't feeling comfortable letting the starter continue, Scott Barlow was his guy that he brought in to mop everything up. And I feel like we have these terms for relief pitchers where you say mop up or long relief guy. Like, you feel like, oh, he should be at the back end of the bullpen, not worry about him. This is the kind of guy that you bring in to clean everything up and get you back on track for the next inning. So I'd say probably make him like an option C as far as a closer by committee. I'd be comfortable with that.
Was there any talks in Cincinnati as far as renegotiating that contract and possibly keeping him on?
There were some rumblings, but I think it was clear right away the Reds were going to be able to upgrade this bullpen. And I feel like they did with the moves that they made. They brought in Pierce Johnson, brought in 2 lefties, and Caleb Ferguson, and one that A's fans will know quite well, and former Angel Brock Burke. And they also retained Emilio Pagan, who we kind of thought might sign a big deal somewhere else. And so they were able to really upgrade their bullpen. So if they brought back Scott Barlow, I don't necessarily know that he would have beat out anybody else that's on the docket here, but at the same time, I think that he would have been a good fallback option had the Reds went and signed a guy like Kyle Schwarber. I think that that's probably why Scott Barlow waited a while to sign, is that he was going to be an option for the Reds had they decided to spend the majority of their budget elsewhere.
What didn't you like about Barlow? When you were watching the games last year, like, hey, I loved him here. Gosh, he drives me nuts there.
Too many base on balls. And that's my thing with all relief pitchers. Look, we've gone through some rough years before Ellie and Matt McClain got here in Cincinnati. And through those years, I don't know, you could just name a guy that was in the Reds bullpen for the better part of the last decade. They're going to come in and walk the first guy. He did that every so often. Not necessarily in the times when he was brought in when there was like guys on base. But if he started off an inning, it's almost as if he had a comfortability and then he had to like snap himself out of that by putting somebody on base. I don't know. That was a frustrating thing as a fan to watch, because we all know that one of the top things as far as a pet peeve of a baseball fan is a relief pitcher that walks people.
Yes.
And so there's that. So he is not a perfect relief pitcher, but I think he was able to kind of buoy those walks in most cases.
Switching gears a little bit, and a lot of A's fans and A's in general, we need one more starting pitcher. I mean, there's no, as far as a hole in our squad, we need a starting pitcher. Reds put an exclamation point on their offseason with the signing of Suarez. But pitching, I mean, you could make an argument that the Reds have one of the best top 5 pitching rotations in all of baseball. is there any rumblings as far as maybe dealing a Brady Singer?
I thought that was the case before they signed Suarez. I think that might be out the window now. Unless things go awry and the Reds just aren't in contention, they might look to deal him in the season. But I think they are pretty content with their roster as is, because there was a lot of rumblings at the beginning of the offseason that the Reds weren't necessarily going to stretch for a free agent hitting upgrade. And so they were going to have to look at trading one of their starting pitchers, because they do have a good depth of them. There's a couple of guys in AAA, or who will start the season in AAA, who have the talent to be on a major league roster. So there were some folks that were like, do you trade a guy like that? I think that went out the window with the Geno signing, because the Reds can now say, look, we still have this amazing pitching depth, and we upgraded the lineup as well.
Last question. 2 more questions. Sorry. Nick Martinez. Reds going to re-sign him? Where do you see him going?
I don't. I would hope, because dude has pitched amazing the last couple of years in my books, and I think that he deserves a nice big contract. He deserves to be an everyday starter, because if he comes back here, he is going to retain his role as the sort of do everything pitcher, pitching the bullpen a little bit, pitching the starting rotation a little bit. Knife. Yeah, and that's a great guy to have if you need him, but I think the Reds have moved beyond needing a guy like that. So I don't think he is coming back. He would be a great option for anybody. I know I've seen that the Yankees were attached to him, maybe signing him at some point. So that's a possibility. But I mean, he's a guy, like the thing that I tell anybody about Nick Martinez is that there was a 10-day stretch last year where he pitched 4 times, started twice, pitched out of the bullpen twice. Right. And the 4th time that he pitched, he was 1 out away from a no-hitter.
Oh my God.
He was ridiculously reliable, durable. That was the kind of guy, stable. Stability is what Nick Martinez would bring to anybody's rotation.
Grade the 1 year, Scott Barlow, 1 year, $2 million with incentives. Give me a letter grade for that signing for the A's.
I'd give you an A on that one, to be honest with you, because $2 million is a deal on a guy like that. He is another guy that brings stability to the bullpen. Yeah. I would stop short of saying A+. There's not a ton of upside in Scott Barlow.
He is what he is.
But you can pencil him into the opening day bullpen and expect him to be there through all 162. Jeff,
hey, as always, thank you so much, everybody. Jeff Carr at Locked On Reds. If you want to check out a great podcast, him and Stephen Offenbaker are 2 of the best in the business, no doubt. Thank you, my friend.
Thanks, Benny.
The Winter Games are officially here, and if you are anything like us, you are locking in for events you only get to see on the biggest stage every 4 years. And that's why following the Winter Games on FanDuel just makes sense. From medal counts to individual events to finding your angle on the sports you care about most, FanDuel gives you more ways to stay connected to the action. The drama of curling matches that start slow and somehow get intense fast. Speed skating races decided by inches. Hockey games that feel different right from the opening face-off. Even niche events become must-watch when you are fully locked into the competition. FanDuel keeps the entire Olympic experience engaging from start to finish. The Winter Games are on, and there's no better way to follow them than FanDuel. FanDuel, play your game. Thank you for making Locked On A's your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network in the country. If you have not already, go check out our new Everydayer Club. You will get access to an ad-free audio feed for Locked On A's, compatible with Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and every other major podcast app. An invite to the members-only Locked On Everydayer Club Discord server, which includes a group chat just for listeners of this show. Go to lockedona's.supercast.com or tap the link in the show notes to learn more. What is up, everybody, and welcome back to Locked On A's, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network in the country. Yeah, that was Jeff Carr from about an hour ago. Great insight on Scotty Barlow. And yeah, straight A's, I saw your message here. Didn't look like the sack tax applied. No, I was surprised, man. 1 year, $2 million? Yeah, and I agree with Jeff. I thought it was an A. When you consider that type of salary they got him for, a former closer just a few years ago with the Royals, a great piece to the bullpen, for sure. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I love the pickup. They're making good, solid moves. You know, I don't think by any, you know, you can't really say that Scott Barlow knocks it out of the ballpark. But like Mark Leiter Jr., I think it's a good move that makes the A's better. Who are the A's, to your question, who would they DFA to make room for Barlow? Bill, I can't imagine it being anybody else but Mitch Spence. I think it's Mitch Spence. How can it be anybody else but Mitch Spence? If you were to take two guys there, Mitch Spence, Joey Estes, but Joey Estes is still young and still has an upside to him. Mitch Spence, when you're talking about Mitch Spence, is Mitch Spence even in the 40-man roster? I could be off on that one, guys. Yeah, there he is. Yeah, Mitch Spence, 28 years old. He'll be 28 years old in May. Rule 5 draft pick. I can't see it being anybody else but Mitch Spence. Jesus, happy Saturday, man. Journey, yes, we still do need a starter, but let me add something. Let me add a couple words different. We need the right starter. I just don't want to sign a starter to sign a starter. Or I don't want to trade for a starter just to trade for a starter. We got to get the right guy. Who's a guy that's going to get us better? Who's a guy that's better than potentially a JT Ginn, potentially a Gunnar Hoglund? And you're like, well, a lot of guys. Not really. I want to get the right guy. Consider salary also, Journey. Got to also, for example, Carlos Quintana, we were talking about last week when I have straight A's on. I like that. I like that signing a lot if we're going to make one. They did DFA Max Schuemann. That was to make room for Andy Ibáñez. Andy Ibáñez. Solid. When you're talking about Andy Ibáñez, you know, listen, 32 years old, Cuban infielder. His big thing is versatility and contact at the plate. They claimed him actually in February, picked up his $1.2 million contract after the Dodgers actually tried to sneak him through waivers. Spent the last 3 seasons with the Tigers as a utility role. And right now, he's not going to be guaranteed any type of spot on the opening day roster. No. I saw some of you post yesterday another Gio Urshela. You would hope he's better than Gio Urshela, right? But the difference between the two is obviously Ibáñez has more flexibility. He can play second base. He can play third base. He logged time at first base, even at shortstop. He's played in the outfield. So, yeah, he's played a lot of positions, man. He's solid. He is a very, very, very good defensive player. He's solid at the plate. He's not going to hurt you. He's very, very good against left-handed hitters. Against left-handed pitchers. Hit 280, 452 slug in his career. So, he's all right. But by no means can I see him guaranteed a spot with the A's on the opening day roster. I think just like anybody else, he's going to have to compete. He's going to compete for that super utility role. We have a number of guys there. We have a number of guys in that super utility role. You could put Darrell Hernandez in there. You could put Brett Harris in that super utility role. Max Muncy, super utility guy. Ibáñez, super utility guy. All of those guys have played short, third, and second. All 4 of them, excuse me. Hernandez, Muncy, Harris, and Ibáñez has played all of those positions. Let's trade for Hayes. You're talking about Cabrian? I said that a long time ago. You guys killed me on it. The A's always find a guy with upside for cheap that none of us think about. It was a good pickup. Good call, Sean. Yeah, for sure it was. For sure it was. Barlow and Leiter make us better, but does it make us playoff better? I don't know if you can really look at it, Bill. Did we get better as a team in our bullpen with the pickup of Barlow and Leiter? Yes. And again, when you're talking about playoff better, for me, it's like, hey, does it make us better to play important games in September better? And yes, I believe it did. Quintana would be nice. I'd be happy with that. Me too. Ibáñez hit cleanup for the Tigers in postseason a couple times. He's good against left-handers, no question about it, straight A's. Against left-handers, he could mash. Mash may be a little bit of an overstatement, but he can hit. He 100% makes the roster. They aren't paying him $1 million not to make it unless he gets. I wouldn't guarantee that. I wouldn't guarantee he makes the roster, opening day roster. So who are you going to set down? You're going to just send down Darrell Hernandez or Brett Harris if they out-duel him in spring? You can't for sure say that Ibáñez is dead better than any of those guys. I don't know. I'm not with that. But you could be right. After Badeau gets DFA'd by every team, maybe we can re-sign him. When I come back, I want to talk about Max Schuemann. I got mixed feelings about Max Schuemann. Ibáñez is a solid pickup, but I'm not doing flips over him. Scott, when you're talking about yesterday, Barlow for me was the highlight, and Ibáñez to me was a whatever. I'll see you in a minute. Hiring isn't just about finding someone willing to take the job. It's about finding the right person with the right background who can actually help your business move forward. And if you want candidates who match what you are looking for, Indeed Sponsored Jobs is the move. Because instead of hoping the right person stumbles across your post, Indeed helps you match with quality candidates by boosting your job listing to the people who fit your specific criteria, like skills, certifications, and location. If I were hiring, I wouldn't just want someone who can help. I'd want someone with real experience who can jump right in. That's what I like about Indeed. You can get specific and target exactly what you need. It saves time because you are spending less energy sorting through mismatches. And with sponsored jobs, your post gets seen by candidates who are actually a fit. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you are hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Listeners of this show will get $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Do it the right way with Indeed. We love disagreeing. And no, you would not bet your house on Ibáñez making the team. I bet you wouldn't. I bet you wouldn't bet your house on Ibáñez making the opening day roster. And Hernandez and Harris, they start in AAA. Ibáñez is a better player. He hit 239 last year. He's older. 32, what is he? 32, 33 years old? In his prime, he was. And there could be an argument that he is better than Harris and Hernandez. I don't think it's an obvious, like, oh, no doubt about it. He's way better than those two. No. Is he the odds-on favorite to make it over those two? Yes. But is it an absolute no-brainer? Absolutely not. Personally, I don't think he is. I don't think Ibáñez is a better player than Darrell Hernandez and Brett Harris. Is there a little bias to that one? I don't know. Does my opinion sit with the minority? Yes. If you were to ask 100 people, who's a better player between Ibáñez, Harris, and Hernandez? Probably the 60% of them say Ibáñez. But I don't think it's a no-brainer. I don't think it's a no-brainer. He's getting older. Age catches up with you. 7, 8 years older than the other two guys. But hey, listen, to your defense, he's a good player. He's a good pickup. And yes, he mashes against left-handed pitchers. He has postseason experience. He hit in the middle of the order in the postseason for a contender. No question. Sean, curious who the A's will DFA to open up the spot. I can't imagine I would have to think it's Mitch Spence. I mean, I'm just looking at the roster right now as far as pitchers to open up a spot for Barlow. I mean, Alvarado, no. Baez, no. Barnett, maybe Mason Barnett. I think it's Spence over Barnett. Basso, no. Estes, no. Maybe Estes. I still think it's Spence. Ferguson, Ginn, Harris, Hoagland, Holman, Michael Kelly, Mark Leiter Jr., obviously not. Lopez, Medina, Morales, Net. Nunez, no. Perkins, no. Severino, maybe. That was mean. Sorry. I apologize. Spence. I think it's Spence. Spring, Sterner. It's not going to be Zwang. The GM said at Wilson signing they were looking for versatility, and Ibáñez just adds to that, but I'm more concerned about the rotation in utility fielders. Journey, we have more utility fielders than you can imagine. I don't know how many more. We're talking about a guy that consistently has a role of playoff teams versus guys that haven't had major league success. I don't think the A's commit $1 million. Journey, everyone's making $1 million. The MLB minimum right now is what? Close to $1 million. The salary is nothing. They're making $1 million. He's making $1 million no matter what. Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's a big deal. I don't like you call it 32. Hey, Journey, you're the best, man. You are the best. Excuse me, straight A's, you're the best, brother. Listen, I don't disagree with you on Ibáñez. Okay? I don't disagree with you on Ibáñez. For me, okay, based on the older Ibáñez gets, based on what he has done the last couple years, last year, I feel it's a competition. And if someone said, hey, Booney, you got to make a decision on who makes the roster. I'm choosing Harris, Hernandez, and Muncy over Ibáñez. Call me crazy. Hey, and maybe that's why I'm not the GM. I'm also the same guy that said Luis Morales shouldn't have gotten brought up. That didn't go too well for me. But listen, been right on some, been wrong on more probably. My opinion. I like Brett Harris a lot. I think what he did at the plate last year when he was in AAA, in the big leagues, I thought Darell Hernandez and what he brings as far as speed and versatility, defensively at all those positions, play over Ibáñez. But I get the Ibáñez signing. There needs to be more depth. There needs to be an insurance policy. I feel like it's going to be a spring competition. I feel like it's going to be a competition in spring. Harris, Hernandez, Ibáñez, two guys out of the three. I feel like it's competition. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm telling you straight A's. I feel like it's a competition. I don't feel like it's an automatic. That's what I'm saying. I'm concerned about the rotation, not these utility guys. I hear you, Journey. And me too. And I feel like there needs to be another starter. That's why I asked Jeff Carr about Brady Singer. I think we need one more starter. You can't have enough starters. But point being is I don't want them just to go get a starter just to go get a starter. I like Carlos Quintana. So I do think I agree with you. Like, hey, let's get another starter, but let's get the right starter as well. Bill, how's Ibáñez? He's a good defender. He gets it done at all the positions. He's good. He's solid. No question. Gio Urshela-ish defensively. And hey, guys, listen. Gio Urshela, say what you want about him. He's a well above average major league defender. So I like both signings. Max Schuemann getting DFA'd. How do you guys feel about it? I'm mixed. Here's what I'm mixed about. Everyone forgot about Max Schuemann. When the excitement for this young core in the A's started in July and August of 2024, the second half. If you guys watched the second half, it was tough during that year. They won 69 games. But the second half of 2024, in July and August, the A's had one of the best records in all of baseball. I've said that maybe, 200 times so far. If you heard me last year, especially. And why I was so high on the A's last year was because of those 2 months. And it was highlighted by Brett Rooker going absolutely ballistic and Lawrence Butler going equally as ballistic. Do you guys know who the third best player on that team was during that stretch? It was Max Schuemann. Max Schuemann hit 350 something. Was always the table setter. Played third base, played shortstop, played second base. Played anywhere, played some outfield. Did everything you needed to do to win games. So while I feel the move's the right move, I also look back and I'm like, it's kind of like what are you talking? You feel like it's the right move, but you don't like it? Is that what you're saying? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I like Max Schuemann, and there's still a chance that he doesn't clear waivers and comes back to the A's. But I always think back to those 2 months, and he just never got consistent plate appearances, consistent everyday opportunities to play. He was always overshadowed by the next guy. And he was always didn't have this or didn't do that. But the kid from Western Michigan, Eastern Michigan he went to, just always just scrap, man. I love Max Schuemann. And the reason I started getting so darn excited about the A's young crew was, Rooker and Butler went nuts in the second half of 2024. But everyone forgets the third best player on that team during that second half was Max Schuemann. Max Schuemann was ballistic. Estes and Spence are the same pitcher. Yeah. I have a hard time imagining it's not going to be Mitch Spence. If you were to ask me, I'd say, hey, it's a toss-up between Spence and Estes, and what the tiebreaker is age. Straight A's. I'm fine with. We're really on the same page today, aren't we, Straight A's? I'm fine with Schuemann being DFA'd, but I think he'll get picked up by someone because of his defense and versatility. I hope you're wrong. I hope he comes back to the A's. So we'll see. Don't bet any more houses, man. That's all I got to say. But good moves yesterday, man. Barlow is definitely an improvement to the bullpen. The question is, and what I wanted to ask Jeff Carr is like, hey, can you see him part of in that closer role? But for me, if I was to say who's favored to come out of spring training as the closer, Scott Barlow. I do think it's going to be a bullpen by committee, though, guys. I do think it's going to be a bullpen by committee. I think if you go into the ninth and two of the three hitters in the ninth are lefties, it's going to be a Hogan Harris. I think if two of the three hitters are a right-handers, it might be Scott Barlow, maybe a Michael Kelly. That's what I think is going to happen with the closer role, and I'm okay with that. For me, I want Hogan Harris to get it. It's my guy, but should be interesting to see what happens. Appreciate you guys tuning in as always to Locked On A's. Special thanks to Jeff Carr. Go check him out, man. Guy's a stud over on Locked On Reds. Him and his guy Steven Offenbaker do a hell of a job. If you want a real entertaining episode, guys, I'm going to give you a couple can't miss episodes during the season on the Locked On Network. Look for when the Reds play the Cardinals and they have the crossover with JD over at Locked On Cardinals. You talk about a ticket I would pay for. But maybe even the ticket I would pay more for is either Locked On Cubs and Locked On Reds. They might not even do a crossover. That would be entertaining if they do. Or Locked On Cubs and Locked On Cardinals. You talk about some fun episodes, man. Those hosts tear it up. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Thanks again for tuning in to Locked On A's today. And Super Bowl. Exciting. Who do you guys got? I got the Pats plus the points. Pats plus the points. That's what I got. I will see you guys on Tuesday. All right. I will check you guys out on Tuesday unless any major moves come out before then. Maybe Carlos Quintana. Maybe Carlos Quintana gets signed. Journey. I still like Perkins as a closer. I think what's going to happen is Perkins is going to be contending for that 5th starter spot as well, Jern. I think he's going to be in the discussion for that 5th starter spot. So take care, guys. Have a good weekend. Enjoy the Super Bowl. I got the Pats plus the 4, plus the points. It'll probably hit. If you want a total, you're not sure about that. I like it going over. Way over. Take it easy, guys. Thanks for tuning in today to Locked On A's. Make sure you subscribe and follow Locked On A's so you get all the latest episodes. You can find Locked On A's on social media on X, Instagram, and TikTok, all at Locked On A's. If you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On A's ad-free, plus members-only Discord access and more. Head to lockedona's.supercast.com to join the club. For those of you on video, we send you to the first ever 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. On audio, make sure your second listen is Locked On MLB.